And
Love you too, Deb.
Summer.
Hey, get resource. We're here Fridays at noon, where we chat about relationships, communication, conflict, just the real human stuff underneath the layers.
Yeah,
Hey,
the real human.
the real juicy
Was that the real
human,
human stuff?
icky, sticky stuff. All right. What's alive in you?
Well, playfulness. Your playfulness, giggly and laughy. I'm feeling, yeah, easygoing, fun, ready to go, full of energy, spit and vinegar. How about you? What's alive in you, Mr.
Yeah,
Dre?
eager to have the
Eager.
conversation. Um, and there's spaciousness in my day to figure out some stuff. So looking forward to playing with that in the next few days. And I'm in.
Great.
So
All right, what are we
today,
talking about today?
today we want to talk about stories.
Yes.
Stories. How people get stuck in stories.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the interpretations of what we think other people are doing or why we're here. Lots of different stories.
I mean, stories are exciting, right? I mean, stories are like movies. You got your action stories, you got your um, comedy stories, you got your thrillers, you got your horrors, right? And sometimes those kind of reflect our own lives, what's going on. And
Yep.
speaking of stories, okay, I just got to give us grace that I'm a story making machine because I'm a human being. My mind just wants to make sense of things, right? And so I project a story to make sense of it, to give me ease, to give me safety, to tell me what's going on. Though those stories are also influenced by my past experiences, by my limiting beliefs, paradigms, by my trauma. What I believe is true, ain't it, Summer?
Ain't it, taint it. We paint it that way. Yes. And we work with the saboteurs. So, and IFS, internal family systems with Naomi. And there's all these internal parts that actually have opposing stories sometimes. We tell ourselves a lot of stories depending on the circumstance, which can be exciting. More exciting than that and more interesting to me is you mentioned movies, sitcoms, all of those soap operas. I remember some of them, Days of Our Lives, when my parents were around. And there's a bunch of new ones, Netflix and all that stuff. And I remember feeling really awkward at one gathering. It was quite a while ago. I don't remember what it was, but I remember whoever it was sharing about these sitcom TV shows and the lives of the people depicted in these shows and how much they knew about them and what was happening next and all of these things. And it occurred to me that sometimes people know more about the lives of other people that are on TV, that are fictional characters, than they do about the real people, their friends, their relatives in their lives that are living, that actually have a body, that aren't on TV. We're kind of isolated. We come home to our houses and we turn on our TV. And that goes back to relating to, I saw my parents or my dad because they live in a different city once every year, once every 6 months. And I remember my dad saying to me, particularly um, during COVID, because we were very isolated, he said to me, Summer, you really need to be watching the TV so you know what's going on. I thought to myself, well, is that really what's going on? How do we know what's going on? Do we ask people in our lives, the living sentient ones, or do we trust what's going on a TV? What are the stories
Hmm.
in movies and things? And they have subtle layers of different things that are written in them. And
Yeah.
you ran into a woman at the mall. Actually, this was very interesting because we were out. I was getting a new bathing suit, and this woman. She was an elderly woman, but she just started talking to you. You had a good conversation, right?
Yeah, she was telling me about her life and what's going on in her day to day, and how she realized how addicted she is to the news, and that she knows it's terrible for her well-being, for her mental health, but she can't stop watching it. She tells me, like, she's looking forward to, like, turning on the TV to see what's going on in the world, and she's like, "And this is making me feel like shit," but she still does it. So it's like being addicted to the drama, being addicted to the sensationalism, right? Being addicted to a movie that's playing out on TV, where at some point in our past generations, that TV were perhaps a trusted, source for what's really going on in the world, right? Perhaps journalists with well-meaning wanted to report what was really going on, like true journalism. But hey, if you realize our news has been hijacked for views. And how to get you into views? Well, it's to tell a really damn good story that typically is pretty extreme, like sensationalism to pull you in, right? And so TV, I always love this. TV is like telling you a vision. TV, tell you a vision. Not your vision, the vision that you
Mhm.
want you to believe in.
Reminds me of a book. There's a book called The Four Arguments Against TV. Because they're really, yeah, telling you the vision they want you to see, ignoring our own imaginations and what's going on in our own bodies and our own thoughts. And another thing, she turns on her TV. I think people want to be involved in other people's lives. They just don't know how to relate on a real time basis. I mean, what if we could be part of other people's lives in a way that, there's addiction to drama, and there's the real thing about contributing to others' lives in life giving ways. We're not talking about the backstabbing, the soap operas, all the things where people are judging each other and they've got affairs and secrecy and all that stuff. What if we could actually relate to people in life giving ways where we could feel the depth of another human's grief or loss or anger or joy or sadness? Isn't that what we want to do when we go to the movies?
Yeah.
What if we could do in real life?
Yeah, because when I go see a real good movie, it's because I see myself in that movie, like a superhero movie. I imagine myself like saving the world or overcoming certain things. It's like character development, right? No wonder reality TV shows are so popular, is because we do want to get, like you said, involved in other people's lives to feel alive in regards to the human experience. I know you said
Mhm.
earlier how soap operas, right, are like these fake lives. It's like as if I'm involving myself talking about the housewives of Las Vegas, and I'm more in
Yeah.
tune with the Kardashians than I'm in tune with my own life and with my own family.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think that's when we go to movies, right? What makes a good movie is if we laugh, if we cry, if there's a lot of movement and emotion that we can feel. But for some reason, we like seeing it outside of ourselves. But when it comes to our own lives, it's like, oh, I'd rather not feel anything, which is super interesting. So, I mean, I know we do it. We get to be involved in people's lives in a real way where we laugh and we cry and we're with them. Um, we still watch the occasional movie, although I often fall asleep because they bore me. It doesn't really matter
You
what
choose
kind of movie
carefully.
it is.
We usually choose funny
Yeah,
movies to just veg out and laugh, and good like storylines that like are inspiring, right? Yeah. We deliberately choose certain movies.
yeah, because it's programming. They call it a TV program. Tell you your vision programming, and what kind of programming do we really want?
So let me ask you this, like, why is it that we look outside of ourselves, perhaps to a reality TV show, soap opera, or to talk about someone else's lives than to talk about our own, or maybe to foster more that deeper realness with our own family system. Like, what's there?
Well, I don't think we really know or have known in the past how. It's scary, as in with IFS. We have protector parts. We've been shut down. We haven't been taught how to express ourselves. Like Abermeta says, belonging and authenticity, they typically haven't gone together. So we do want that authenticity of raw emotion, and we can see it in a movie, but it hurts too much the way that we've typically and historically gone about it. People shut us down. They don't want to hear it. And so, what's new about what we're doing, about what the
Hmm.
world is waking up to?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I definitely resonate with the lack of skills to be able to have those conversations or have that being reciprocated with me. I mean, with my family system, it just wasn't like that. It was kind of hush hush. We don't talk about real stuff. It's more of keeping things peaceful and living by expectations of what people thought I should be, right? So I never had that real raw stuff to begin with. And let's say if I did share what was really going on, yeah, it was met by shutdown. It was met by, maybe telling myself that I talk too much or stop talking back, or worse, like physical punishment, fear, keeping me in my bubble. And so, yeah, that family system to be able to have that open and real conversations with my own family is definitely scary because of my past experiences with that.
Right. And I think our culture, I mean, especially, I mean, you only had to see the fact checkers on Facebook in a certain time frame where they were like, shut up, don't talk about that. You're not allowed to talk about that. Don't say anything about that. And so it exists in our culture too. And so, how do we hear other people's opinions without taking them personally? How do we not take stories personally? So many people getting offended, say. And maybe it's because it clashes with the story that we had about who we are or who we think we are. And we're not really taught what our who we are at our core. Have you ever been to those people who um an aunt or a lovely grandmother who sits with you in such presence. She doesn't get rocked or triggered by anything, and she's just kind of this kind of presence, would you call that? Just really just present. And it feels warm and inviting. There are those people who have come to this place where it's like, you know what? I don't want to be addicted anymore to the drama and the story. I just want to be connected to people. And I can figure my way out to be connected by realizing what's going on for me in this story and not being attached to it anymore.
Yeah. 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 What's going on for me in this story, right? To see perhaps a mythology or a myth being played out, a pattern. And let me ask you this. I mean, there's power to a good story. Like I love me a good story in a movie, when someone's story tells around a campfire. But then there's certain stories that just really suck my energy. So what is the delineation between stories that really suck the air out of the room versus stories that inspire and are life-giving? Is there such a difference between life-taking versus life-giving stories?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, what comes to mind first is um, life-giving stories are stories of triumph that talk from a personal point of view, what I've overcome, what I've achieved, pinnacle of a conflict. That's a good part of a story. And they're not really heavy on the blame and shame thing, of telling it's somebody else did something to me and I've been abused or those things. It's like, oh, it's like Joseph Campbell and Finding Joe. That movie, it's a good one. How do we overcome those things that block us from being our true selves, that allow us to shine our gifts and to contribute to the world and, that make us laugh, that make us cry, that make us feel jubilant and excited to be alive? Um, you know, all those adventure movies with Harrison Ford or whatever they were, they're exciting because they come up with challenges and then the resilience of the human spirit versus those ones with, oh, my life is so terrible and I'm not able to do anything and everything's against me. Like the good movies are those where we triumph. And maybe that's why we don't want to be a part of a lot of different people's lives, is because it's the opposite. Maybe we don't see a lot of people triumphing. Maybe it's a little depressing.
Mm,
They're sick,
yeah.
they're depressed, they've lost their jobs, this negative energy spiral, which can drag us down.
Mhm. And one thing for me too is a story. A good stories, there's progress, there's movement. There's like Indiana Jones, right? There's arcs and chapters to it. Though if I keep hearing the same story and combined with the fact that perhaps the story is like disempowering, yeah, I could definitely see myself turning off that movie, turning off that
Oh,
story.
it's the same chapter over and over again. Oh, George is in another swamp. Oh, and then he's in another one. And he's having another drink and he's having whiskey today instead of, you know, rum or rye. Yeah, it gets boring, doesn't it? And so how
Yeah,
do
it gets
people
boring.
create
Mm.
yeah, how do people create movement in their lives? How do they
Mm.
reinsert and get re-engaged in life itself? Because it's always changing. The seasons are always changing. But why is it in people's lives does it seem like sometimes people are stuck and their lives stop changing and they don't move on to a new chapter? Why is that?
Well, right away, what's come to mind is the victim complex. Like my victim part of myself coming in and just wanting to be heard and validated for my experience. Perhaps it really sucks and it's very challenging. And the person I speak to just discredit it, walks away, corrects me, tells me, oh, there, it's gonna be okay. Right. And then I'm not heard. And perhaps I spiral around until I am heard, until I have that grandmother presence, that nurturance, where she can really give me that quality of presence where I'm just accepted for my experience. And maybe I'm given the opportunity to shift out of it then, to do something with that. But yeah, I can see myself being stuck in story. The same story is because I just want to be heard. I just want my experience to be validated. I wanted to be connected to in my life.
Well, you had that experience actually at a coffee shop with a friend who was kind of telling you a story, and then he told it a
Mhm.
slightly different way. And some people
Yeah,
go on and on a little bit. And I'm curious if you want to say what you realized afterwards.
for sure. Like that time with the friend at a coffee shop, he was sharing something, and there came a certain point where I started to feel annoyed. Though being polite, just wanted to create space to hear him out. But I kept going, and I noticed he start sharing the same story, but in a different way. And so I got the hint. Perhaps my thinking is that I'm not following him. And so I just interrupted him, saying, hey, just by the way, I'm just curious, can I reflect back what I've heard you say? And just by doing that action, I felt the sigh from his shoulders just release out of the space because now he got confirmation that I actually was hearing them, right? And so some people are different. Some people just want that quiet space to just share, and some people do need that reflection to get that feedback that things are landing for them. are landing for me.
Right. Some
Yeah.
people need sounding boards to hear themselves,
Yeah.
and often people wanna be heard. They wanna make sure that someone's actually listening, that someone actually cares. Because if no one's listening and no one cares, why are we even here in the first place?
Yeah. And it can be a challenge for me, with, certain people that their stories are long. That's a judgment. Perhaps their stories over 10 minutes or something, if I were to be specific. But there comes a certain point where I'm like, hmm. And that's where I'm practicing the art of interruption, to be able to interrupt with care, caring, caring for the time, perhaps, right? In spaces of facilitation where we're caring for the presence of time with everybody else that's there and ending on time,
Are you
for
talking about a
example.
cl
Or yeah, a
I like the
class or even just a normal interaction, right? I think it's an art to be able to interject and offer or reflect back. Because even for myself, for example,
mhm.
if someone starts sharing and it's been like 5 minutes and counting, there's so much information that's being shared that there's sometimes I start checking out or eyes glazed over. And I think checking in at certain points allows me to confirm, am I on the same page as you? And if I am, then we can continue on to the next chapter of the story, for example, right? I do need a break, though I catch myself at times where I don't. I don't ask for that. I don't interrupt because I'm trying to find the window. I don't want to be rude. I don't want to offend this person. Whatever stories I have in my head of how this person might take it. Though I
Yeah, I
hear
think
that, yeah, I hear that interruption is like bringing life back into the conversation. So how can we interrupt in a way that's life-giving and not life-taking?
yeah, well, I think that goes to the paradigm where we think interrupting's rude, but and maybe we need to call it something, but interrupting can show care. Interrupting to say, "Hey, have I heard you correctly? Am I listening?" And what if we were both engaged in the conversation in a way that was like, "Oh, I wanna see what this person means by this. What's going on?" And I think a lot of us tell stories also, with the idea to impress someone, with the idea to get someone to do something, and we get frustrated when people aren't listening. But what if we were to speak to what's alive in us, to what's actually going on in our head, in our mind, in our day? Because when we go to the movies, that's what we see. We see inside someone else's life, what's actually going on for them. A lot of people who speak tend to speak to what they want other people's to think of them and what they want to impress, whatever it is. But I know I get deeply engaged and I do want to check in. I do want to interrupt to make sure I'm heard and I'm leaning in. When people tell me what's going on, how they perceive the world, how they feel the world, and then I'm like, oh, this is so interesting because then I'm also in the story. And that's what, Hollywood does so well. We can put ourselves in the story because there's so much emotion and there's so much feeling and, a lot to hear people's internal dialogues. But in our waking reality, we often think, well, if other people is watching me, how would I want them to see? I used to think that when I was younger. Oh, I'm going to act because I'm going to pay attention to if there was a TV show and some TV was watching me, how would I want other people to see me? I did think that a lot. And I'm willing to bet other people think that too. But what if we didn't care? What if we engaged in life in such a way that we checked in with ourselves rather than, as you say, check out? Like, this is so boring. Please poke my eyeballs out. What if we said, hey, I notice I'm disengaged right now and I'm, checking out. And I really want to honor you and what you're saying. Can I check in with that? if this is correct. People will be like, oh my God, yes, thank you so much for wanting to hear what I'm actually saying and being honest.
Yeah, and also letting me know that, like, you're checking out. Like, I don't wanna bore people. There's a part of me that feels embarrassed that people are checking out, just like my fly's undone. Please tell me if my fly's undone.
I got shit in my teeth or on my face. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an act of care, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I noticed no one's checking in today. Maybe our comments and things aren't showing up on the pages. It seems so intermittent and very,
Yeah.
if anyone's watching,
Please do
maybe you
send a
should check the
comment so we can test out the chat if it is actually working. Yes. Just say hi or something. Send an emoji. But yeah, like, how's this conversation going for you? We'd love to hear from you. Stories, right? Stories have a place in human existence. It's just we're meaning making
reminds me.
machines.
You're
Hmm?
part of being a co-author in my book. We're going to re-author it and republish it. And a lot of people were
Yep.
worried about the end story and what people are going to think, right? And there's really good story writers, and it's called fiction when we tell stories to engage people, but it doesn't say anything about our real life experience. And so some of the authors are saying, well, I'm writing a story, but I don't feel it. I don't feel anything. It's not really inspiring. And I think that goes back to the same thing when people tell stories or they engage with someone and it's that, polite sort of um what do you call that talk? Small talk versus if you're really feeling it, if you're involved in telling a story that you're actually living and gracing someone else with an opening into who you really are and what you're experiencing in life. And maybe some people don't want to hear it, but I know I do. I want to know what brings people alive. I want to know what's going on in their internal world. It makes me so curious. When you tell me, "Hey, I'm worried about having enough time to get to the gym. I'm feeling anxious, and this is why I'm behaving in an erratic way or flustered or whatever it is." I'm like, "Oh, thank you for letting me know that. It's not about me. I don't have to make assumptions anymore, and now I can support you and me to getting to the gym, for example." It excites me when people talk about the thoughts in their head that are going on because then I feel more competent in the world. I'm like, oh, this is what
Mm.
people think. Oh, okay. Versus what so many people act one way, feel a different way, and then you're so confused, right? There's a lot of confusion in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Deception, whether it's deliberate or
Hmm.
not, right? It's just clarity. Clarity is kindness. If I get a window into what you're thinking, then it starts making sense when your thinking matches up with your actions. Yeah, to make sense of it. And it does offer grace and compassion, doesn't it? Because if I have a certain story, a certain belief, it makes sense for me to act a certain way because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, I see that, stories can be inspiring or stories can drain. What about this idea that, like, let's move to the stories that drain, like for those that are just stuck in that story. And I think we touched on it by perhaps being heard, right? And then making that choice to switch out. Um, but let's say if someone is so triggered about what someone did to them, right? How would you support them to move through that?
If they're triggered by what someone said to them,
By what someone said or did, like something outside of themselves, like it's like a drama show, right? I'm talking about someone else and what they said did really aggravated
right?
me.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Carl Jung always says, whatever most irritates you about someone else is a good sign to look inward. Two fingers pointing at someone else, four pointing back at you. Um, but how do we actually come to understand that in ourselves? It gets kind of tricky. The mirrors of other people can be all those distorted, crazy mirrors that we see at Klondike Days or whatever that is. How do we get clarity? It's whether or not it resonates with us. If we're triggered, something's resonating with us. And we often go into our head to try to figure it out. But that resonance actually comes in our body. This direct felt experience. And I know the work we do with men, Connor Beaton talks about a direct felt experience. Okay, where do you feel that in your body and where's that coming from? And as kids, as infants, we don't have language for that stuff. We just kind of absorb it. And Marshall Rosenberg talks about our life-serving energy. And so our emotions tell us if something is life-giving or not. And so when someone's triggered, it's actually a teacher that tells them that something is stuck. It's reminding them of a previous experience that wasn't life-giving, but it's actually not the present experience enough. There might be parts of it. But it's so interesting as we've come to do this work and work with couples and triggers and things like that. What we think someone else is doing is usually completely wrong. Completely wrong. Completely. Absolutely ass backwards, completely wrong. Even though we're convinced it's true. I've seen it too many times to know that not to be true. And so we cannot think our way out of something we felt our way into, and our culture teaches us to try to do that, and it's absolute insanity. We become in these thinking loops, and we have the same arguments over and over and over again because we're thinking. And so back to what you were saying, Dre, is, hey, can I check in to see what I understand of your life experience? Do you feel this way? Can I validate what your experience is so I know that I hear you and I know who you are? When people just want to really hear what your experience is without checking out, with taking that time to interrupt and check in, oh, sometimes, you know what? That's all we need to be regulated again, to settle down, to move out of that highly charged state.
Yeah. It's like kind of going deeper, like going deeper than just staying at the story level. It's going into the direct felt experience. It's going into what I might be feeling, what I might be needing, the essence, the underlying essence of like what's not being met here in terms of my life serving energy. Because the danger
Right.
of staying at the story is that we end up creating an echo chamber where we start commiserating or gossiping and offering sympathy. I call it a sympathy party, which means we justify and believe the judgments we have on a particular person. For example, two men coming in the bar and just talking about this woman, right? And just slandering her. And then they believe that that's her character. Or two girlfriends coming together and slandering an ex boyfriend. And that's the perception and judgment casted on to that person, right?
Casted,
So,
projected. I love how you just said that. Yep.
yeah. And we get one side of the story and we just believe in it. So we justify what we're feeling. And there's no movement because it's a judgment. I don't need to change, right? I don't need to look at myself. It's what's out there that's the issue. So that person's got to change. But then if I
Right.
am guided into my body, I'm guided into the literature of feelings and needs, getting me to the essence of it, then I can create movement because now I take my power back instead
Mhm.
of giving my power away, judging someone, wanting that person to change so I feel better. I'm in control now.
Yep, be the change you wanna see. And I think that's it. We get stuck in story, right? Which is all verbal. But babies, kids, they move through stuff. Temper tantrum. Oh, I forgot. I'm done. I'm good. I'm going out and playing again. Adults can do that too, but they need to get out of this that we've been taught in our head to keep telling and the gossip and stuff. Kids don't do that. Young children, anyways, do not. Um, and how do kids do that? There's a lot of new parenting techniques, right? And they're taught instead of to have a timeout, let's have a time in. How and what do children need? Do they need us to lecture them and tell them and advise them? No. We sit them in our lap and we just hold them, let the trigger move through their body, and they cry and they might flail or whatever they do. And then the energy moves through them and they're fine. And when they're held and they're not told to go stop or get spanked or shamed or whatever it is, they're taught to feel safe in their bodies and that energy moves. It's only when their parents judge it and go, "Oh, I'm a terrible parent. Oh my God, I got to stop this temper tantrum right now in the middle of the store because someone's going to see it and think I'm a bad parent." So we're judging the story in our head. But just like it takes a village to raise a child, it also takes a village to heal an adult. And we need to be able to be present to people who are triggered like we are children. So sometimes, and people tend to talk a lot because they're uncomfortable. They talk to keep themselves out of their body and they want commiseration to make themselves feel better. But the best way to feel better is actually just to have someone with their hand on your back without speaking, but you can feel their presence. And you're just in your body, being told it's safe, and you get to feel what you're feeling. And then it moves, just like it does for children, because that's how it works in the body. But adults, we tend to have these stories. Oh, this doesn't feel good. I better fix it. I better numb it. I better do something with it versus just allowing it to move through us. And healers and spouses and things too, we want to fix stuff for people. These emotions, these are these appendages that are really in the way of getting stuff done. So let's just fix it. Well, it's a lot faster because we are emotional species. We need to grieve. We want to cry. We want to be in these movies and really feel them. So allowing, being with, presence. Then the chapters start moving and our story becomes more interesting again.
Yeah. Yeah. Stories. This leads me to think about like how I personalize stories, right?
Mm.
Personalize my story. If I tell my story enough times, right, it's believable. I can
To you.
exaggerate it,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And then all of a sudden I forget if it's real or not, and I just believe it's real, right? Or, I personalize someone else's story about me. So this personalization, there's such an intricate relationship with the story. It's like my identity. It's how I see the
Mhm.
world and my role in it. Eh? Yeah. So it's kind of a fine line, right? Of like, stories bring life. The hero's journey, finding Joe, going through the different chapters of a story and overcoming challenges and achieving triumphs. And there's stories that, yeah, are really tragic. get me sucked down a water drain.
Well, this is so exciting. I love how you're saying that in your image. You're talking about of people's lives and we get engaged in a book. Well, what if we can have a person that we know that we can engage in their story and they're engaged in ours in a way that makes us feel alive? And it's the hero's journey over and over again. Every challenge that we come to in life that we get to share and celebrate. And this is why I believe healing, emotions, communication is going to be more done in community because that's what we get to do.
Yes. Yes, and it's shifting from listening to the stories of celebrities, of what I project onto as a guru that knows everything for me, to the stories of the people,
Of
the
the
stories
people,
of the everyday lives of people, right?
including
And
celebrities,
when
the
I
real people, not the story of them. Yeah. Sorry. Yep.
yeah, yeah.
I'm
Though
interrupting.
being able being able to see the movies of people, not just the movies of what's in Hollywood, right?
Well,
That we
and
all
it's
have
fake.
interesting stories. Yeah. Though there's reference to a good movie of why it feels alive in me because it references like human morality or human challenges. There's something alive in watching a good movie because I see myself in that movie. I can feel it. And so the invitation is how do I live that in my own life to create that movie
Mm,
that I'm an
mhm.
Indiana Jones or whoever going through an adventure in my day to day, right? And if something bad happens, just say, wow, that's a plot twist. And then continue on.
Well, and I think you're talking to archetypes too. Most people don't know what those are. Why do superheroes appeal to us? Why are they? It's part of our psyche to overcome, the dark forces, Star Wars, the Death Star, all the dark and light. It's really that in ourselves. What do we exile? What do we turn away from? What do we call bad in ourselves? And how we end up integrating all of these experiences and becoming the hero of our story. That's what we want. What does it feel like to be a superhero in our own lives? It's overcoming challenges that seem so devastating. It's about rescuing the inner parts of ourselves that have been left behind. How do we go about rescuing ourselves? Um, and this is now reminding me too of outside stuff, those little life jackets and stuff. One of my clients says, all these coaches and different programs and stuff that throw out fake life jackets and then you end up drowning because it's not a real life jacket. Um, on boats, they have those SOS, save our souls, someone outside of us, come to rescue us. Where's my superhero, my knight in shining armor who's going to come and rescue me? Well, it's not happening. happening. Um, you got to rescue yourself, and others can certainly support you and give you references for how to do that because the collective consciousness, what Carl Jung calls, where all those archetypes live, where Joseph Campbell talks about, there's an archetype, I believe, in all of us that we can feel that's alive in us. All of us are drawn to slightly different stories because I believe we come for slightly different purposes. Um, and we really are the superheroes of our own lives. It's very exciting. And when we see people achieve, there's also the negative parts of that. Some people are jealous. They don't want people to achieve. Some people play small, like Marianne Williamson's things. Who are we to play small and not shed our light? People want to see people win if they're a part of their lives because they feel the joy as if it's their. It's when we're outside that we wish we were that other person and we get jealous. When we can actually relate, when we can actually feel, when we're in our bodies experiencing the same life-serving energy, the same source of someone else, ah, it becomes alive in us. Life starts to become more interesting. We're not numbed out watching TV or someone else's lives. We're actually participating in life. rather than watching it. I think that's what we really
Yeah.
want.
That's key right there. I think that's a big, big mic drop moment is participating rather watching. Because when I watch from the sidelines, that's when I have jealousy. That's why I have hate. But when I'm playing my life, when I'm living it, and I see others people live in it, it's inspiring because I'm in it with them. It inspires me. Yeah. It's supportive. It's a transference of belief. Yeah. Hmm.
Especially when we can contribute to others' lives. Oh, this person's struggling, and I provide them with something, whether that's something tangible or just my presence, and then they achieve and we're a part of that.
Yeah. It's this relatability piece. Right? I can relate to you. And that's
We're
why I think
relational.
a lot of people love a good underdog story.
Mhm, mhm.
We've been underdogs at certain point of our lives, right? And we want that person to like overcome. In every great movie, there's this moment, right, of crisis. Did you notice that every movie has a moment of crisis where things fall apart? And that's kind of like the descent into the underworld of the hero's journey.
Yeah, and we watch the movies, but in our real lives, a lot of people are in crisis, suicides, addictions. We don't know how to get out of the movies tell you the story of how. But in real life experience, a lot of people get stuck. And this is because we relive the stories and we're watching and not participating in our own lives.
Exactly. We're
Mhm.
watching and we're not participating. We're not saying yes to the call of initiation,
That's right.
right? Hmm.
Yes, yes to the call of the initiation, to start participating in your own life, to start feeling rather than believing all the outside stories. Hmm. Exciting, really.
Yeah. Hmm. Mm.
So we do have upcoming an ultimate relationship event, which is how to start participating in each other's lives. When we're stuck in toxic patterns in relationships, as they're looping and looping, we're stuck in a story. We're not actually participating and being present with what's actually going on for us. Um, and so we teach people how to co-regulate, how to be in community, how to start participating rather than projecting these stories onto others that are the heroes or the Hollywood heroes, but becoming excited about our everyday lives, creating our own vision rather than watching the television. Um, and then life becomes just so much more meaningful. We don't need to be addicted to the drama anymore. Rather, that we're participating in true feeling.
Mm. Nice. Mm. That's right. So the ultimate
Mhm.
relationship event, 2 days on November 17th, a Monday, November 18th.
Mhm.
If that interests you, send us a DM to myself or Summer. We'll give you the details. And yeah, essentially, it's a space where we'll give you our tools um, to communicate consciously, to transform those conflicts into deeper levels of connection. And really a space, right, where you can start being yourself, practicing, be seen for all of who you are and belong at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. And out of the drama and into the understanding of the richness of the human experience by willing to
Mm,
participate in it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So thank you
Great.
for watching, being with us, and we'll see you next Friday at 12 p.m.
Bye,
All
everybody.
right. Bye.